No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. For me personally, broadcasting from my childhood bedroom this evening. So lots of memories over here, none that we're going to discuss on air, of course. Nice to see Dave Minuk in the top right and Ezra Ginsburg in the bottom middle. Gentlemen, the Winnipeg Jets victorious this afternoon by a 5-2 margin. A score that, from my estimation, would undoubtedly flatter the hometown team. But the important part is that they found their game after a very sluggish 25 to 30 minutes to begin, and then we're absolutely dominant for the most part from then on, pulling away in the last couple of minutes and securing that 5-2 victory. Good to see both of you guys since our rendezvous yesterday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty much a bad 25 minutes for the Ducks, and then a bad 25 minutes for the Jets, I should say, and then a bad 35 minutes for the Ducks. So, it was 2 goals in 49 seconds, boys. That was really the difference here. And, you got to love the efforts from guys like Saku Maanalainen and Morgan Barron, Adam Lowry, that third line, right? And Mikey Esimont going up to the top line, if you want to call it that, or second line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. Morgan Barron was fantastic. I thought some of his best hockey, Dave, tonight was on the penalty kill. He was really good, but Maanalainen for sure is going to get one of those 3 stars tonight. Hellebuyck was solid. You wouldn't fault him on any of the 2 goals. I think that you're really going to see a motivated team with Paul Maurice coming back into town for that game Tuesday night versus the Florida Panthers. You look a lot better now, Drew. So, yeah, it was an ugly first period and an ugly start to the second period. But sometimes, if you end up putting together a solid couple periods, that's all you need. The Ducks are horrible. They played yesterday. We know that. So, yes, it was not a beautiful game, not a Picasso, but they end up getting the 2 points clean, which is really all that matters.
Yeah, exactly right, Ezzy. Certainly not a Picasso. Nothing that anybody's going to say, they want to, replicate this. The first 25 minutes, they were definitely just slow out of the gate. Not even slow. They were almost absent for the first period. And had they been that way against basically any other team than the Anaheim Ducks, it would have been a much higher hill to climb, Dave. The Jets are fortunate as to who their opponent was. To the same extent, they didn't let it get too out of hand. After it got to be 2-0 on that Brett Leeson goal, and we'll talk about that as we get through the Betway game recap here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. But after we get through that, after that 2-0 goal, that's when the Jets sort of found themselves. They found their game, and then they were able to really take it to a weaker opponent for the latter half of a lot of that game, Dave.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I think that's one of those instances where, you like as he often says, when you're watching a game like that against an opponent like the Anaheim Ducks, 2-0 is not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination. And I was talking to Judy Owen, who works for the Canadian Press beside me, and I said to Judy, I'm like, she goes, what's going to happen? I go, well, this game is definitely not out of reach for Winnipeg, because even though they haven't played a very good game, and even though Anaheim had a game in St. Paul, Minnesota yesterday against the Wild, you just felt like this Jets team was not even close to being out of it. Now, 3-0 might have been a little different. I still think not insurmountable, but it felt like the game was within reach for a Winnipeg Jets club that, wasn't playing well. And look, they were being outshot significantly throughout the course of that first period. And I thought to myself, this is supposed to be your bounce back effort. This is supposed to be the statement after having a stinker. You played the stinker on Friday. Well, there's no reason to continue to stink, because it stank real bad, as they say, So that was it was not an ideal first period by the Winnipeg Jets by any stretch of the imagination. When you have a goalie like Connor Hellebuyck, though, tends to equalize things, tends to allow you to smooth things over, and then eventually get your game going. And that's what ended up happening. That's what ended up happening for the Jets, and that's what they needed to get going. Was they needed these 2 points. It's not even a question that they needed to win this game, and they needed to win it in regulation, create some good feelings, to be able to go duck hunting, and then get set for a big game on Tuesday.
Can we talk about the couple of guys that were wearing camo that actually had the duck call horns. Like that. I actually thought one of those guys might be from Duck Dynasty. I'm not even joking. I don't know a lot about those duck call things, but and I know what they sound like. I've heard them before, but that was amazing. Like that was just perfect at the end of the game.
Yeah, that was very funny in this afternoon's games, and kudos to those guys, who dressed the part, certainly, as the Jets were looking to go duck hunting, and it took them a while to get going with that performance. And I was surprised about that, gentlemen. I thought the Jets would sort of come out as a bit of a house on fire, after that poor performance on Friday night, because that's generally been what we've seen. When they have a poor performance, they come back pretty strong from puck drop. Wasn't the case today. It took them a couple minutes to get going, obviously more than a couple, almost half the game, but they did eventually find their skating legs, which allowed them to end up taking advantage of the weaker opponent, Hezzy.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about, a team playing the previous day, some days you can, and it was during the day, of course, it wouldn't have been last night, but when you have a team that has played the previous day, sometimes you expect that they're going to come in, they're going to be a little bit more motivated, have a little bit more energy just because they're coming off of a game, right? So I think that was to be expected, but the way the Jets played is really inexcusable. And it's really tough to figure out, guys, because, I think the Jets, we would all agree, have overachieved through 22 games this season, right? Like when you consider the Ehlers injury, Rick Bowness's illness, the difficult schedule through the first, especially late October, early November. We talked about that, right? Mid-November. The schedule's been much easier lately with some pretty bad teams like Columbus and Anaheim. And they did lose to Columbus, but they're still a bad team. But I think you look at the pace of play, the fact that they were really having trouble creating any offense. I think the shots were 15-3 or something like that. Doesn't matter what it exactly was, but it was something like that. And the second and third period, they were all over the Ducks, and they were clearly the better team. Love Scheifele, Perfetti, and Wheeler again. Like Perfetti just continues to impress with the little small passes he makes and just his decision making. And we talked about Connor Dubois, Eyssimont. We were talking about it on yesterday's show. Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet said, maybe it's time to give a guy like Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. Well, if you think about it, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby and Eyssimont, kind of similar types of players in the sense of what they offer, right? Kind of like crash and bang energy guys. I mean, Eyssimont, I should give him more credit. He's more of a goal scorer, more of a point producer as opposed to Jonsson-Fjällby. But, I don't see any reason why, Dave, you don't put Mikey Eyssimont back on that line with Connor Dubois based on the way he played tonight. He took a big hit, by the way. I forget who the defenseman was. I have to go back and look. He took a big hit. Kulikov, there you go. Ex-Jet Dmitry Kulikov. Thanks, Drew. And we know Kulikov from his time as a Jet is a good physical player. And it was Pionk who hit, if I'm not mistaken, Frank Vetrano with the old school hip check. Correct me if I'm wrong if it wasn't Vetrano, but I'm pretty sure it was Vetrano, 77, right? So there was some old school hip checking and physical hockey in the third period. And you like that, right? Like you can say whatever you want about the Ducks, and they are a bad team, but they're very fun to watch. Like, I don't think Zegras doing the Michigan there was appropriate in the second period. Like I just didn't think that was the time or place to do it. But I do love the Michigan, and I love when Zegras tries skill plays. Troy Terry, really good player. Mason Marchment, he's a rookie, really good player. Jamie Drysdale is a guy that didn't play tonight, but he's a defenseman of the future for the Ducks. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but that defense is horrible. All due respect to Anthony Stolarz, he was playing way above his weight class through the first couple of periods. I'm not saying that he was bad or the reason why the Ducks lost, but he's a backup goalie. He's not a goalie that you're going to be that worried about. So good for the Jets for persevering through that awful first period.
It was an awful first period, and it took the Jets some time to get their skating legs behind them, Dave, but they finally did, and then they were the better of the two teams by a wide margin, and that's what it takes. And I'm sure that when we hear from Rick Bowness post-game and the players, they're going to say that they were not particularly pleased with their performance tonight. That yes, it looks good, yes, the scoreboard sort of flatters them, but there's a lot there that they need to clean up, because you can't, for the most part, take off 25 minutes against a lot of teams in this league and expect to come back. And it was still, let's be honest, it was a 2-2 game until the last 6 minutes of the third period. So, then, when the Jets finally got their first lead of the game, that's when, everything for Anaheim, collapsed at that point in time. But, one shot, Anaheim with that late power play before the Jets got that 3-2 goal. Anything happens there, maybe you're trailing still again and you're chasing. You don't want to leave it up to chance. You want to be able to sort of put your foot down on a weaker opponent. And the Jets didn't really do that until the last couple minutes of the game.
Yeah, there's no question about that, Drew. I mean, that's what we were talking about. You need to have that killer instinct. And the truth is the Jets were fighting back in this game for portions of it and trying to get back into the contest. So, I mean, it's hard to have a killer instinct when you're in a deficit. And that's where the Jets found themselves. And, and I think, interestingly enough, I think that first goal for Winnipeg, and we'll get into that with the recap, but I just thought that kind of showed the hustle necessary by Nate Schmidt, actually, that the team needed to have a little more just animation. They just weren't aggressive enough. And I thought, aside from the PK, I actually really liked the Jets PK again this afternoon. So I thought the PK was very good. Really didn't allow the Ducks to do anything of note or create any sort of dangerous situations for Anaheim. But yeah, no, I mean, look, it's another example of a Jets team not starting on time. And that is one of the things where maybe it was an afternoon game. Maybe it was the fact that they're playing a lesser opponent. But the truth is, as you said, Drew, you go against an upper echelon team and you're not going to be able to have that kind of start. Now, they could say, well, we wouldn't have that kind of start against one of the better teams. Whatever it is, you need to be ready to go when the puck drops. I mean, that's just the way the game is played, right? It's a 60-minute game, which allows you to kind of, if you have to, work your way back into a contest, but it's not ideal. And again, Winnipeg just shows how good they are at home. What does that make them, like 9-3-0 in Winnipeg? So they've been very good at home.
Yeah, just wanted to quickly say, just quickly to add to it, Drew, because I know you want to get into the game recap here. Like, to me, that's on the players. Like, that's not coaching at all to have that type of start in the first period. Same thing goes for the majority of the Blue Jackets game. Like, that wasn't a situation where Rick Bowness was out-coached or the coaching staff didn't get them ready for this game. And you're right, Dave. Like, we've watched so many afternoon games over the years, not just Jets, but Moose and junior hockey and everything like that. The afternoon games they're just different. They just are. Like, some of them start off and they have a regular feel, but most of them start off slower. But I mean, this wasn't a bad first 4 or 5 minutes for the Jets. That first period as a whole was awful. And the early part of that second period was awful, highlighted by the Brett Leeson goal. So you're right. Nate Schmidt deserves a lot of credit for not only, having an assist and hustling on the Maanalainen goal, but he was really good with Samberg. Like, that was maybe Schmidt and Samberg's best game as a pair. So they deserve a lot of credit. And that's what you need sometimes, right? Like, you can't always depend on the Scheifele line or the Dubois line. So the third line stepped up big time tonight, led by Saku Maanalainen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maanalainen's goal, which we'll get into, was a tremendous one, a huge one for the Jets, because at that point in time they were trailing by 2. So let's get into the goals. It's the Betway game recap on the Illegal Curve post-game show, brought to you by Betway. Betway is one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. With a large selection of betting options and sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. We talked about the power play and the penalty kill. The Ducks open the scoring. It's Jakob Silfverberg, his 4th of the season, assist to Frank Vetrano and Kevin Shattenkirk. That comes at the 15-16 mark of the first period. I thought it was a power play goal, but maybe the power play had just expired prior to the goal going in. But the Jets were certainly outmanned on the situation. There's a rebound. Nobody ties up Silfverberg, and he's not the same player he once was. He's not the sort of guy you have to game plan for. But he's still a big body, and if you leave him wide open in front of the net, he's still going to be able to do some dangerous things. And that's what happened here, as he makes it 1-0 for the Ducks, as he.
Yeah, I'd love to go back and see how many career goals Silfverberg has against the Ducks, because you go back to the kind of 2015, 2017 years, like Silfverberg has a lot of goals versus the Jets, but you're right. I mean, he's towards the later stages of his career, but Frank Vetrano gets the original rebound off of the Kevin Shattenkirk pass or shot. And yeah, it's just, a really opportunistic goal by Silfverberg. And I actually thought Morgan Barron, that's the thing, guys. Like, we're going to touch on the goals that were scored by Barron and Saku Maanalainen, but I thought that they were excellent again tonight, killing penalties. And to me, that's kind of when the Jets are at their best, when all of their game is sharp. And obviously the first period notwithstanding, right? But I think those guys feed off of playing well on the PK and the forecheck and all of that cliche stuff, right? So I just wanted to mention that. I mean, it's not just that these guys came up with timely goals. They had good games. Like they were a big part of this game. Like, it's not like, Maanalainen was a fourth line guy. He played 5 minutes and then he just kind of got lucky with a greasy goal, right? Like, these guys had really good games. And these are the types of guys that have to step up, right, Dave? Like, these guys have to play well or they're going to be replaced. Axel Jonsson-Fjällby was a healthy scratch. He was back in the lineup. And I thought he was noticeable on the fourth line with Gagne and David Gustafsson, who still can't get his first goal. I think it's going to happen. I was telling Dave, I wouldn't have been surprised if, Gustafsson got in on the action. He had a good scoring chance late in that game, right? But yeah, this was a goal that, the power play, they had a lot of good possession. They were moving the puck well. And this was they were just a little bit late, getting to Silfverberg on the rebound.
Yeah, exactly right. And the Ducks are, full marks to the Ducks for taking the 1-0 lead, because they certainly deserved it. They were the better of the two teams in the first period, outshooting the Jets by a 18-7 margin, which should just never happen against a team like Anaheim. It's just emblematic of the slow start that we were talking about for the Jets. They just were not ready to play when 2 o'clock hit, and the Ducks make it 2-0. Early in the second period at the 5:09 mark. And this one's just sort of a bad bounce over the stick of Dylan Samberg, who would go on to redeem himself and had actually been playing a pretty decent game up to this point in time. Bounces over his stick, and Brett Leeson comes in all alone on Connor Hellebuyck, and he's got the speed and he's got the advantage, and he beats Hellebuyck to make it 2-0 for the Ducks. And I don't know, if you're anything like I was, gentlemen, you're getting a little bit, the thoughts are creeping back into your head. Are we seeing a redux of what happened on Friday against the Blue Jackets? The Jets may be underestimating an opponent as Anaheim takes a 2-0 lead, and you're almost halfway through the game, Dave, and the Jets really haven't done anything to give you any hope that they were going to start to pick it up at this point in time after it's 2-0 for Anaheim.
Yeah, I would say that Dylan Samberg has learned his lesson, but
that's good.
Thank you. I tried it out in the press box first, then I tweeted it, got some good responses. Figured I would, share it with you two and obviously everyone in the chat.
I'm actually jealous, Dave, that I didn't come up with that myself.
It was a little Ginsburg-esque inspired. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, guys, if I'm not coming up with that stuff here, like, what am I here for? It's obviously not for my hockey analysis.
No, but I mean, it's definitely an unfortunate bounce, and it's coincidental, of course, that Dylan Samberg later on, we'll talk about that, it's his first NHL goal. But yeah, I mean, you could just see it. Like, not only did it pop over him, and he tried to get back, and it was an unfortunate situation for him. But I mean, that's the way the hockey is played sometimes, right? Hockey is a game of bounces. We've seen it so many times. I mean, how many times in that Columbus game, on that one shift we talked about with Wheeler setting up Scheifele, and then Wheeler setting up Perfetti, where it's, the pucks bounced. Even today in the game where Perfetti had the chance on that Gagne tip, where Perfetti is beside the Ducks net, and the puck bounced, but at the same time, the defender also got his stick. I think it was Benoit, or whoever was defending. I think maybe it was Benoit, got his stick and knocked Perfetti's off, so he couldn't, tap it in. But the fact is that, sometimes those little bounces happen, and that's part of the game. And, Samberg tried to get back into the play, and it was a nice goal. But to me, it's not so much the giving up the goal. And we talk about this all the time with any sort of player. You want to see the bounce back shift. You want to see how the player responds to an adverse situation transpiring on the ice. And for me, Samberg was able to bounce back. Forget about the goal, but just the idea of, like, how are you going to react? How are you going to respond? And I thought the team itself, of course, because if you're a Jets team, which doesn't feel great about yourself, remember that Colorado game, that's years ago already. That shutting out of the defending Stanley Cup champs, that's yesterday's news. That's not yesterday's news. That's a few days ago's news. Now the only memory you have in your head is a 4-1 loss to Columbus, and now you're down 2-0 to a Ducks team that's not very good, Ezzy. So the fact is, it could have had a poor reaction with the Jets, could have had a poor, could have started something off like a chain reaction that led to a lot of negativity, but you didn't see it from the Jets. They kind of knew that's an unfortunate bounce, scores a nice goal. We're not out of this game.
I just wanted to add one thing, a couple things actually, maybe three. One, two, a couple of three. Brett Leeson, if you guys remember back in, because we used to cover the draft, so I used to, obviously we used to cover it more, but back in 2019, that was the Heinola year. Brett Leeson, if you guys remember, the Jets took Simon Lundmark in the second round, but Leeson was a guy, I remember talking about it when we were doing the show. He was an overage guy who had a really good last year of junior. I want to say he played for Prince Albert, but I remember we were thinking that the Jets might take a flyer on Brett Leeson because he was an overage guy. So sometimes those guys are projected to go a little bit higher. Just wanted to get that in there. So he's a guy that's worked his way up and had to, not be drafted a couple times. And he's, made himself into a good pro player. So good for him. But on that particular goal, clearly, Lowry wins the faceoff, and, we're not going to overanalyze this a little bit. Dylan Sandberg's trying to get control of the puck to move it forward and make a play, right? Like either a shot or a pass. And it's just a bad turnover. But again, watching that review, and I'm sure you guys were watching that review thinking the same thing. I was thinking, please let this be Sandberg's first NHL goal, because he wants to make up for the turnover, right? Not just get his first NHL goal, because he's going to have a long NHL career and he's going to score eventually. But I just thought that was kind of poetic justice that, that goal, it just seemed like fate, Dave, that Sandberg was going to get his first NHL goal, because it looked like, I think it was Eyssimont and Dubois, right, were the two guys that might have tipped it.
Yeah.
Clearly on the rebound, neither of them got it, and Sandberg got his first one. But it's just good for a guy who, makes up for that mistake in the first period and then gets his first NHL goal.
Absolutely, as you're skipping over a goal because that was the tying goal, but of course the Jets got on the scoreboard.
What happened with Dave there? All of a sudden, Dave forgot how to articulate.
Yeah, sorry. Looked like, yeah. But the Jets got on the scoreboard at a couple minutes later at the 10:31 mark of the second period. And this is a huge goal in the tenor of this game, because it sort of comes out of nowhere. There's no sign that the Jets are about to pop one here, and it's Saku Maenalainen just going to the front of the net, and the pass comes from Nate Schmidt from behind the net, and he's got a good stick on this one. Maenalainen does. He's a big body, tough to tie up, and he's able to sort of wedge it up and over Anthony Stolarz to give the Jets to cut the lead in half, the Ducks lead in half, and that finally gives the Jets some life, Dave, after having been so sleepy and so sort of out of it for the vast majority of the game to this point in time. All of a sudden, instead of it being 2-0 Anaheim and then continuing to put the foot on the gas, the Jets are able to cut it in half at 2-1.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a against the grain of play. I agree, Drew. And I'm not sure Maenalainen had to do anything, because, again, as I said earlier, I credit Nate Schmidt, because he had a tremendous amount of hustle to get down the wall, to pick up that puck, get down the wall, go around the net. And Maenalainen really, it was almost like, I remember sitting in the press box going, oh, he scored. But it was almost as if he didn't recognize he scored. And for him, that matches his career high for goals in the NHL, which he obviously set in his only season in the NHL with the Carolina Hurricanes, which he did. He had 4 goals in 33 games, so he's done this in obviously in 10 fewer games. Here, the second go around in the NHL, but I mean, we've talked about it, right? Maenalainen was a guy who we weren't certain if he was going to be coming out of the lineup. And remember, warm-up began with Jansen Harkins on the ice, so we didn't know who was going to be. It seemed likely, based on yesterday's practice, that Jansen Harkins would come out, and obviously Axel Jonsson-Fjällby would come back into the lineup, but it wasn't, you never were certain. Once obviously we saw line rushes take place, that Jansen Harkins came out. But yeah, I mean, I think Saku Maenalainen has really kind of stepped up his game, and I thought he was actually having a pretty good game for the Jets throughout the course of this hockey game this afternoon, and he gets rewarded by being in the right spot, which is what we talk about. You need the guys, especially the guys who aren't going to score. Get ahead. I don't want to get ahead, jump ahead, really ahead with the Mark Scheifele goal, but there's not many guys who, although Saku Maenalainen, as we know, had a goal similar to that this year, but you want a guy like Saku Maenalainen in front of the net, creating a little chaos, stick down, ready to receive a pass. And that's what he did. And again, I credit Nate Schmidt playing in his 100th game in a Jets uniform. So nice way for him to kind of celebrate that milestone. And the Jets cut the lead in half, and you could feel at that point now the Jets were back in this hockey game and ready to go.
I love it. It's the old spin pass, boys. And what I love the most about this is that Schmidt enters the zone, right? And it's not like the Jets. This was like, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, crazy speed, pushing the Ducks back. Like Schmidt takes the puck over. I'm pretty sure he dropped it to Lowry on the boards. Lowry was the one who put it in the corner, and then it came into to the right corner to the left of Stolarz there. But I like that Schmidt that's when you activate, right? Like Schmidt goes and follows the puck into the corner because nobody checks him, and then he just puts it on net. Like that is the reason why hockey coaches say put the puck on net. And Dave's right. Like Maanalainen's a big body. He got lucky. He got wood on it, or composite on it, if you want to call it that, because we're in the day and age of $300 sticks, right? So yeah, like I just love everything about that from Nate Schmidt and Maanalainen going to the net. We know he does that almost every night, right, Dave? Like he has to do that. Like Maanalainen is not his countryman Patrick Laine, right? Like he's not a guy that is going to be set up for one-timers. Like he's a guy that has to score greasy goals like that. So good for him for getting the fourth goal. But love the fact that Schmidt followed that play up, got the puck in the corner, and then just did the old spin pass, got it on net, and the Jets were now having some life.
Life that they were badly needed after being badly outplayed to that point of the game. It only takes another 3 minutes, just less than 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 57 seconds for the Jets to tie it up, because you could certainly see that goal, the Maanalainen goal, gave them the jolt that they needed. And then you talked about it before, as you
remember Jolt Cola, by the way? Did you ever drink Jolt Cola, boys, as a kid?
Yeah, double. It was advertised as double the sugar, double the caffeine.
All I know is I remember having that as like a 10-year-old kid, and I was absolutely wired all night.
In fact, Ezzy, you're still feeling the effects of that.
Yeah, exactly.
30 years later.
Yeah, it's still in my system, along with a lot of vodka.
I'm pretty sure it's now considered illegal in 48 of the 50 states, but that's okay. The Jets, as I mentioned, they tie it up not that long after the Maanalainen goal. Dylan Samberg, his first career NHL goal, comes at the 13:28 mark. Assist to Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And much like the Maanalainen goal, good things happen when you put it towards the net. And that's what you saw. This is a seeing-eyed shot. The definition of a seeing-eyed shot.
Yeah.
Took a while for them to review it and confirm
too long
it.
Through. It was too long.
What'd you say, Isaac?
I thought it was too long. Like it felt like that review was like 10 minutes.
Well, just to provide a little clarity, as it not only was it too long, I'm pretty sure it was like 3 or 4 songs long in the arena. I'm like, okay, 1 song, 2 songs. Okay, now we got a 3rd song. I'm like, this is taking a long time. And then the best part is, and then the worst part was when we realized that it was ruled a good goal, it was not clear because the refs made it sound like the Ducks were challenging, but then it turned out that it was a review initiated by the NHL. So because everybody's like, okay, now it's a Jets power play. And then when it started again, all of a sudden it's 5-on-5. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then we realized it was an NHL initiated review, because then I'm like, well, hold on. If it is and then the funniest part is on the replay, I actually thought Pierre-Luc Dubois touched it. I didn't think Eyssimont touched it, but I thought Pierre-Luc Dubois
I thought it was PLD as well.
Yeah. So did I. So I was like, oh, that sucks, because Samberg now won't have his first NHL goal, but it'll still count because it wasn't a high stick, even if Pierre-Luc Dubois would have tapped it.
The funniest part of that whole review to me was when there were a couple Jets in front of, I should say, Dylan Samberg. And you could see that Samberg was kind of looking around them to see, like, if he before the ref announced that it was a good goal, there was some inclination that it was going to be a good goal. Because you could see in the beginning, Samberg was cool. He was like, okay, well, either I got my first NHL goal or I don't. But then as it progressed, it was one of those situations where it's kind of like the last kid getting picked for soccer in elementary school, right? Like there's just that anticipation and anxiety. That wasn't me, by the way, because I was a fantastic soccer player. But, just good for Dylan Samberg to get his first NHL goal, guys, especially after that turnover in the first.
Well, we'll talk later about your incredible soccer skills, Ezzy, but the Jets, it was 2-2 at that point in time. The Jets finally are able to tie it up, and that's where it goes after 40 minutes. And there were opportunities. There was, but you could see the Jets were now in control of the play. But it took them a while in that third period to finally get the lead. It turns out to be the game-winning goal off the stick of Morgan Barron. This is with 5 minutes and 37 seconds to go. Barron, his second of the year, assist to Lowry and Maanalainen, so a 2-point night for Maanalainen. You saw that line. It was a good line for the Jets tonight. It worked well. This one, they just gained the zone with speed, and it's a good, solid passing play around. And, it starts with Maanalainen with speed. He finds Lowry, who's coming in with speed. He gets the puck on his stick, and then right off his stick real quick to Barron, who's able to tuck it past Stolarz and gives the Jets the 3-2 lead with that, just over that 5.5 minute mark to go in the third period. A huge goal for the Jets, because this is one of those games. I know that had you won in overtime, you would have been fine with it. But it's important to get some regulation wins, and now they have two. The last two wins are both regulation wins. Today, obviously, and earlier in the week, whatever that was, Monday or Tuesday against the Avalanche, another regulation win, because that's what the Jets had sort of been trailing in the standings. You saw all the teams, they were in the upper echelon of the teams, but regulation win number was low. So it's good for the Jets to finally get some regulation wins, which is what this game-winning goal proved to be for the Winnipeg Jets off the stick of Morgan Barron.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great summation of the goal. And what I like most about this goal is, we often talk about, when the Jets are playing really well, they're creating off of the rush, right? Like, it's a cliche, but it really is true. I mean, not only are they creating off the rush, but ideally, your lesser skilled lines, are creating down low, cycle. Everybody knows that, right? Creating a forecheck, getting some turnovers, everything like that. But on this particular goal, what I love about this is this kind of looked like a harmless play, right? And the Jets, to me, have done a really good job. Like, to me, like guys like Dubois and Connor and Scheifele and Wheeler are you see those guys get these types of goals. But good for Lowry, he gets a little bit of space. But I told Dave, because I was watching the game here in the third period, Dave was at the rink for the first two periods. But, on that goal, like, that's a really smart pass by Maenalainen, identifying that Lowry's open there, and then he can see that Barron's got some speed coming through the middle, right? So that's kind of your cliche, I'm saying cliche a lot. I guess I'm Captain Cliche, but it really is kind of just your nice tic-tac-toe passing play, right? Like two really nice passes there. And I thought, again, Morgan Barron, I thought, was rewarded. We talked about the Columbus game. Remember those chances that Barron had in the second period, and Joonas Korpisalo robbed him with that pad save? Like, to me, Barron was really good in all areas tonight. And I just thought it was fitting that he was rewarded with that goal, because that line was really solid. And that's what we want to see, right? Like, we expected Lowry and Barron, at the start of the season to be on that third line, but we didn't necessarily expect it to be Maenalainen on that third line. But, as it stands right now, again, I really like what we saw to these forward lines, especially in the second and third periods against the Ducks, Dave. So I would expect Maenalainen to stick on that third line because, of course, he's kind of, floated around between the third and fourth lines, with Fialbi going up, and when Appleton comes back and when Ehlers comes back, then you're going to have to move the chairs around a little bit. But really like that goal. It was just a really crisp passing play.
The Jets get the insurance marker, Dave, and it comes 49 seconds later, and you see that this is, this Anaheim team. We just know what they are, and they're not a very good team, and you don't have any confidence. So there's no pushback from the Ducks coming after the Jets finally take the lead, and they really sort of affirm that with the big boys decide to get in on the scoring fun. Mark Scheifele gets his 13th of the year, assist to Wheeler and Perfetti in that line again. Dangerous when they get an opportunity, and there were some shifts earlier in the game, particularly I think towards the end of the second period, where they were cycling and the Ducks were holding on for dear life right in the last 10, 20, 30 seconds of the second period. But Scheifele gives the Jets that breathing room to make it 4-2 at this point in time, again with speed, the shot, and this is just again the Jets better players sort of imposing their will on the opponent. Scheifele taking advantage of a weaker goaltender in Anthony Stolarz to give the Jets the 2-goal lead, Dave.
Yeah, and look, Ezzy and I were talking about this when it took place, obviously less than a minute after the Barron goal, but it's vintage Mark Scheifele. And in fact, we've seen Mark Scheifele score that goal against the Ducks a number of times. I want to go back to like 2015. I've got a picture of him scoring from that spot against Anaheim, and remember which netminder was in net as he at the time when we got that goal. But we've definitely captured, and by we I mean Colby Perfetti Spence, our crack photographer who was at the game, and he was again taking lots. I always love these kind of games. The Illegal Curve Instagram is pumped chock full of content thanks to a 5-2 Jets win. So that's always good.
By the way, Dave, I saw Colby. I was in the stands as a fan on Friday night with my beautiful wife, Naomi. That wasn't a bad, if Colby's watching right now, I know he watches every once in a while, that was not a crappy hello. Colby said hello to me, like he was kind of like 5 feet behind me, and it was during the intermission, so there was a lot of people around, and I turned my head and I said hello, but it was like, the situation where you're moving too quickly with the crowd, like You're swimming with the salmon, and you don't have time to you
weren't ready to go
back. So I know Colby said something to you after that Columbus game. But I just want to say to Colby, I love you. You're a great photographer, and that was not a crappy hello. It wasn't my best hello, but I was just moving with the crowd and didn't have a chance to stop.
So as he's as he's going to work on that hello. Colby was a little miffed. I said the big man would never do that to you, Colby. He's not a snubber, so don't worry about that. He's a little more oblivious.
I get snubbed. People snub me. I don't snub other people.
Now he's saying hello, so you can say hello to him right now. But
Colby is there. Colby, next time I see you, you're going to get the best Ginsburg hello that I have to offer.
Oh, bear hug.
Yeah, bear hug. Maybe even a kiss on the cheek.
Oof. Well, that'll last forever. Unfortunately for poor Colby, we know about the Ginsburg stank. Anywho, beautiful goal by Mark Scheifele and really nice play. I mean, if you watched his eyes, he's looking off Stolarz because he's making him think he's making a pass, and instead he shoots that top corner. So just a gorgeous shot by Mark Scheifele. 13th goal, leading the Jets in goal scoring right now. So he was feeling good and he was looking good. And again, like I said, we put up the quote. Thank you, Bailey, who got the quote from Rick Bowness about how this team needed to start the first period, and he can't. They're men, and he's not going to babysit them. And look, the Jets. Those are the messages the coach sends, and he's obviously going to be happy with the outcome, and he's going to be happy with that fourth goal by Mark Scheifele. And to get that line, because you want everybody to have a piece of it, right? And you especially are happy when guys like Saku Maenalainen and Morgan Barron are getting you goals, because like we've talked about, you want everybody to feel like they're part of something. That's the whole point of a team sport, is that you're feeling like you've got a piece of that pie. And so I think from a Jets perspective, it's really important. It's critically important when you have Saku Maenalainen feeling good, when you have Morgan Barron, like Ezzy, you're right. Morgan Barron had a lot of chances the last game. He wasn't getting them to go. Well, he's got a game-winning goal now for the Winnipeg Jets. He's feeling good about himself.
Adam Oates is really going to like that one.
The Jets wrap up the scoring a couple minutes later with 45 seconds to go in the game. This one's just sort of the cherry on top. It doesn't ultimately mean anything. It's good for the stats, though. Nate Schmidt gets his third of the year assist to Josh Morrissey, because can't have a game go by for the Winnipeg Jets without Morrissey at least getting 1 point. His 21st assist of the year, and Kyle Connor gets in on the scoring as well. And that makes it a 5-2 victory for the Winnipeg Jets. They come all the way back to defeat the Anaheim Ducks. A very slow start for the team from Winnipeg, but they pick it up at the end, and the Schmidt goal, as he is what sends everyone home on this Sunday evening with a smile on their face. Home, of course, to watch the Illegal Curve postgame show nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Schmitty, good friend of the show, came on with us. I believe that was back in June from his home in Minnesota, but like, we know that he's one of the fan favorites, but he was really good tonight. I mean, we talked about the Maenalainen goal, the spin pass, and he gets the goal there. Like, he stepped up his game, and I think he's a perfect partner. We talked about like Logan Stanley and Nate Schmidt, when they were paired up, they were struggling. Dylan Samberg and Nate Schmidt are not struggling; they are thriving. They're playing really well together. I don't know if it's the Minnesota connection. I'm obviously joking, but no, I mean, they're good complementary pieces, I would say. So nice for him. And like you said, the game's over. Scheifele's goal was the insurance goal. Schmidt's goal was just, a bonus goal, if you want to call it that, right? And Dave's absolutely right. Like, that was all Scheifele individual effort. I was joking that Adam Oates is going to like that one. I'm sure they're just going to cut that goal and send it to him and say, you know what, Mark, take the day off tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, look, the Jets are a much more skilled team than the Ducks. And to me, that's what good skilled teams do, even though they have a crappy first period or a bad second period, whatever, bad third period, doesn't matter. Their skill comes through, and that's what I saw. 6 minutes left in the game, you're thinking maybe this goes to overtime. I didn't get that feeling just because of how the Jets finished the second period. They were all over the Ducks. But just nice to see Schmidt get a goal. He doesn't have a lot of points. We talked about it. He's only got 2 or 3 assists so far this year, right? So, nice for him. Not that he needs a confidence boost, but as Dave mentioned, 100 games as a Jet. Now he's starting to put the points up.
And that's, you said it right there, Ezzy. A very slow start for the Winnipeg Jets today, but they finally get their skating legs behind them in the second period, and they're dominant from there on out, giving the hometown team that 5-2 win. They improved to 2 wins, 1 loss on the homestand with the fourth and final game coming on Tuesday against Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers in what ought to be a newsworthy tilt. I'm sure it'll be a day filled with quotes and reminiscences and things of that nature prior to Tuesday's game between the Jets and the Panthers.
You're not gonna mention-
back on the other side. Oh, sorry, Dave, were you going to say something? You're on mute, Dave.
I thought I unmuted myself. You must have muted me back, because I unmuted myself. So you crossed there, Drew. But anyways, I don't know why you.
I wish I could mute one of you guys because I go into the show like a regular guest. I'm not one of these like little admin. You guys have these admin powers where you can put up comments and you can mute me. Well, maybe one day I'm going to mute you, Dave.
Just for that, Ezzy, you're muted. Anyways, no, all I was going to say is, look, a nice little tribute to you, Nate Beaulieu, during the commercial timeout. He played 105 games wearing a Jets jersey. And, it was funny because sometimes it's interesting because the players don't actually notice when they're being recognized. And you could see he was on the ice and then his teammates kind of tapped him and he kind of tapped his chest and put his hand up to the crowd.
Hellebuyck absolutely robbed him.
Well, and you know what?
That save was incredible.
But as not only was that save incredible, that was kind of a TSN turning point save because that could have been a difference maker, for this game to go from 2-0 to 3-0. And yeah, you're right. I mean, perhaps if it was Zegras or someone else who's got maybe slightly better hands, that goes in the back of the net. But hell of a nice save from Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck actually made a number of nice saves. I don't know, as you mentioned, the 3 stars. I know, courtesy of Colby, who sent me some photos, I know Mikey Eyssimont was one of the stars. I know Nate Schmidt was one of the stars. I don't know who, in fact, was the 3rd star. But regardless of the 3 stars, the fact is
surprised if Manalainen didn't get a star.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I thought he was good, but we weren't picking them today, so we don't know. As we're not entirely certain. And again, we know how insignificant the 3 stars of the game. Only other significant factoid I would drop that is notable is that Adam Lowry became the third most games played wearing a Winnipeg Jets uniform in today's game, passing Brian Little with 562 games. So Adam Lowry third on the list behind Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele.
I just felt really old, boys. The fact that Lowry's played 562 games.
Doesn't it seem like just yesterday you were at the draft watching him get drafted?
Yeah, that was 11 years ago.
One of the litany of things that makes us feel old at this point in our lives there, Mr. Ginsberg. When we come back on the other side, we'll read some of the quotes from Rick Bowness, the unique code word of the day. Maybe Ezzy will tell us about how the movie was yesterday with his kids, for your first experience.
We got through half an hour, not bad. It was the movie was an hour and a half, and we lasted half an hour before Ruben had a hissy fit and we left. But I was pretty impressed. I mean, we spent $45 on tickets, and I guess we probably should have, asked for a refund. But at that point, we were just like, what it's like, Drew. We were just in damage control. Like I had Ruben just by the collar. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, we got into half an hour of Lyle Crocodile.
I'm sure it was a great half an hour, though, Ezzy. I'm sure it was one of the best half an hours of the movie.
Let me tell you, the Ginsberg tribe absolutely crushed that bag of popcorn. All of our mitts were in there. There was no popcorn left, so that was a highlight. We also got some Reese's Cups, which I always enjoy. So it was nice. I mean, it was $95 total to spend, half an hour at St. Vital Cinema. But, again, first movie, so I think all things considered, it wasn't bad.
If somebody can watch Lyle Crocodile and let Ezzy know how it ends afterwards, that would be...
Javier Bardem, if I'm pronouncing that right, from No Country for Old Men, he's in that. And I didn't know that. And he's a great actor. So, yeah, it was a pretty good movie. But, again, we don't know what happened. I don't know if Lyle Crocodile ended up performing on Broadway or whatever, because if you've seen the preview, he's like a singing crocodile. But I'm going to stop talking about this now because as I listened to myself say that, it was as absurd as the person who wrote that movie. So let's go to break quickly.
When we come back, the unique code word, more from today's Jets-Ducks game. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsberg with you on a Sunday evening. It's the Illegal Curve postgame show. We're live on YouTube. We're live on all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, Whoa! Looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
We are back on the Illegal Curve post-game show Sunday evening.
Drew, did you make your bed today?
Did I make my bed today?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, Ezzy, I'm at my parents' house, so I'm not at home. I'm in my
No, but you're in your
bed.
Yeah, that was the joke. That like, did you make your bed? Like, as if I'm your mom or dad because you're in your room. Like, did you make your bed? That was the whole joke.
Dave, can you mute him again?
Stop.
I could.
Stop it. I like to be in control of when I mute myself. I don't want to live under a mutocracy.
After that joke, you should find yourself muted more often, is what I was going to say. Yeah, although, to be perfectly honest, I went out during the commercial break and I went to see if I could find a childhood photo of myself to show off to the audience, because I'm sure everyone wants to see what I looked like when I got the Skippy nickname originally, the hair and the glasses.
There's nothing better than the Skippy nickname.
Well, I went to see if I could find a photo from that era. Apparently, my parents have wiped all photos of me from this house. Not a photo of me to be found. My kids are everywhere, but you couldn't find a photo of me if you looked high and low in this place.
It's like we're not sure if Drew existed pre 2017.
It's just completely gone. That's basically what I've discovered, is that my childhood may as well not have existed. It's all about my kids and their photos. Me, I think I buried in a closet somewhere. I think that if they haven't thrown it out, that's where I currently reside with my childhood photos. But that's okay. I love my parents nonetheless. Some comments from Winnipeg Jets head coach Rick Bowness post-game, despite a 5-2 win. So, in past years, 5-2 win, all you're going to hear is sunshine and rainbows from the head coach. This is what Rick Bowness had to say about the team's start to today's game. Quote, it's just not right to start a game like that. I'm not a babysitter. These guys are men, they're professionals, and they're paid to show up. More about the game. You can't play this game without passion or emotion. You can't play this game on your heels. And I hate when we're on our heels, so it's not right. So the Jets head coach, not looking at the bright side of the 2 points, he's looking at the reality of the start. And certainly refreshing and probably the right approach to take despite the 5-2 victory tonight for the Jets over the Ducks, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, again, the one thing that is refreshing about Rick Bowness is that how many times did he say to us, you guys watch the game. I'm not going to try and blow smoke up your ass and say, yeah, no, we played great first period. That was fantastic. I mean, there was nothing wrong. I mean, we weren't down by too much. Team was good. Like he can't just try and again, this is a sophisticated market and people aren't here just to have, everything be told, oh, this is great, but really burning their head in the sand and ignoring the reality of the situation. And in this instance, the team didn't start on time. I mean, we talked about it. We saw it, and we know Rick Bowness saw it, and we know everybody in the chat saw it. So that's what you want to hear from the head coach, is that he's not going to lie and try and, it wasn't ideal. That you respect that. I mean, again, I like how he also didn't disavow his own responsibility. He said, I'm the coach of this hockey team. I have a responsibility for these to ensure that they're ready to go. So he's not just saying it's just the players. They weren't ready. It's on me. And I understand, again, that he's got to do that to a certain degree to kind of bring everyone back. And he's not the kind of guy who's going to throw his team under the bus with the media. He's just going to be honest and say, this is what happened. You saw it with your own eyes. He's not going to try and change the story or create a new narrative. He's going to just tell you, Ezzy, this is what I saw. This is what you saw. This is the reality. And we're going to try and change it so it doesn't become a normal reality for us or something that we're, consistently doing.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to the word that we hear all the time in hockey from coaches and players is accountability, right? And not that Paul Maurice wasn't holding these guys accountable. I just think that he wasn't having the same effect. His message wasn't getting through. Like Rick Bowness's message and the whole coaching staff, Scott Arniel, Brad Lauer, like Marty Johnston, it's not just Rick Bowness, but he's obviously the top dog, right? Like that message is getting through here, whether it's, switching Jansen Harkins out for Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, whether it's elevating a guy like Mikey Eyssimont, right? Paul Maurice used to use the line blender, but I think Rick Bowness just uses it in a different way. And I think that that's what you want to hear from your coach, as Dave said. Like, you don't want to hear your coach kind of, yada, yada, the crappy start to the first period, right? Like, that was not a good start to the game. But obviously, the Jets got it together, midway through the second period or somewhere around there, right? And ended up, pulling out the big victory here. So not at all surprised by Bowness's comments there, because it was a bad first period.
The difference between Paul Maurice and Rick Bowness, at least so far, is that Rick Bowness is focused on the process. And the result is all not secondary, but it's as equal to the result. Whereas Paul Maurice would only focus on the result. How they got there, the process of getting there, was definitely secondary to Paul Maurice, which is why you'd hear sunshine and rainbows oftentimes when the result when the Jets really didn't play that well. So I think, to your point, it is refreshing. And Dave, thank you for clarifying, because I sort of forgot the first part of Rick Bowness's quote. I didn't have it up on my screen at that time, but prior to what about the babysitter and the professional comment, he said, listen, I'm the head coach, so I'm responsible for the way we start and getting our team prepared. So that starts with me. And again, it's all about the pack mentality. It's not, coach over here, players over here, all together as a unit in preparation to start the game, and them not having been ready to start the game today against the Anaheim Ducks ultimately doesn't cost them the 2 points. But certainly some interesting comments from the Jets head coach as they're still trying to build and still trying to get the game to look the way they want on a consistent basis. But it's a lot easier to do that when you're winning than when you're losing. Let's go to the unique code word of the day, Dave M. This is for the Illegal Curve merchandise contest, which you're all familiar with. The link to enter the contest, the drop-down arrow, is right there in the show description on YouTube. Just hit the drop-down arrow, follow the link. If you can't find it there, go to our website, illegalcurve.com. You'll see it there in all the different articles that Dave M has posted. You'll find the link there. Click that link, enter in the unique code word, and that's a good way to get extra entries into the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. And the unique code word, Dave M, do you want to say it while I put it up on the screen? Except that you're muted.
I'm not muted. Well, you guys throw me off with the whole muting thing. But anyways, duck hunting, which I picked, of course, because Duck Hunter was a great Nintendo game, of course, back in the day. And the Jets were looking to go duck hunting, and maybe it's a bit cliche.
I liked when you could do the clay shooting as well. Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that as well. But anyways, look, duck hunting is what the Jets needed to do.
The Zapper. That's what the gun was called, the Zapper.
I remember, it was that red gun. I think I still have it somewhere around here. But
orange?
It's probably in Drew's bedroom right now. But anyways.
It's orange.
Well, reddish orange, yeah. Anyways, the point is, Jets would need to go duck hunting. Everyone in the chat needs to enter that as the unique code word to win themselves, some Jets merch from Illegal Curve.
Drew likes to eat duck. I don't think he hunts duck, but he likes to eat duck.
A little foie gras. I could see Drew in his, living in tuxedo, his millions of dollars.
Oh yeah,
He's got no problem. Not like the rest of us has.
Yeah, he's not eating grilled cheese like us working class folk, right, Dave?
That's right. But that's okay, Mr. Bourgeoisie over there in the top left. That's all good, bro. We keep it real over here on the IC side.
Escargot, champagne, like that's a day in the life of Drew Mandel right there.
We're more champizzle and Drew's a little more champagne. But anywho, so we'll anyways. But more importantly, we want folks in the chat to who are listening, who have stuck with us despite our inanities. Enter duck hunting into the unique code word, and there's a number of other ways that you can enter to win. And once, nice one, Jeff. But look, the fact is that you'll get a chance to win some cool Jets merch from IC and potentially have it delivered by either Drew or myself or Ezzy.
Exactly right. I delivered some merchandise earlier in the day to Brad Kerbison, one of the previous winners of the merchandise contest, and Brad was appreciative of receiving it, so that's always great to see. And we have a new winner to announce, and this one's a familiar name to those who've been in the chat many times before. Big congratulations to Tracy.
Nice.
Tracy is the winner of the Illegal Curve merchandise contest for today's game, or entering today's game. So Tracy is going to receive some terrific Jets authentic gear courtesy of us here at Illegal Curve. And
Tracy might be the first woman to win, by the way.
No, I checked, by the way. You were wrong.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But there haven't been that many. There have been, obviously, most of our audience is men. I mean, we obviously encourage women to listen, and we wish we had more women listening. It would definitely be something that we would welcome. But I just thought it was weird. It was mainly, it was a string. There was a lot of dudes winning there for a while. So it's nice to see Tracy win. And I didn't get who won before, but.
As your dad is a math professor, and we'll talk about probabilities and percentages and all that.
There's more women in the general population, but there's more men in the Illegal Curve population.
That is true. That's the point. So, anyways, but Tracy has actually won, I think, years ago. I don't remember. I did deliver to Tracy an Illegal Curve shirt when we were giving those away last year. So Tracy isn't unfamiliar to winning something from Illegal Curve, but congratulations to Tracy. And remember, Bailey who's female, she won a toque the other day. So don't be so quick.
But I wasn't on that show. So that's the thing. I miss, some of the winners. So I was mistaken, but regardless, we're missing the point here. The most important thing is that Tracy's a loyal IC viewer / listener.
Tracy is Tracy. And
she has great comments. So good for Tracy. Congrats.
Tracy tends to sometimes not listen live, but always listens sometimes after the fact. So she'll hear this after and be excited, I'm sure, and maybe hopefully leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. So that's always appreciated. And again, if you can, folks, because it's worth points, remember, if you leave a comment on our iTunes, you get bonus points. And be aware, I'm paying attention. I know if you do or if you don't. So if you can, we've
but just ease up though, Dave, on the name calling, Drew. Like there was a lot of name calling, a lot of 4-letter bombs. So just take it easy on Drew, okay?
Exactly, but we appreciate that. So if you can, we've received a number of since we started asking folks to do that, and we appreciate it. So if you can keep doing it, keep it rolling.
Let's wrap it up with a Tough Duck toque there, Mr. Ginsburg. Who's going to get it for the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment in tonight's show?
We're going to give it to somebody. I haven't seen this person ever. I don't think they've ever commented. So we're going to give it to somebody. It's a very unfamiliar name. I'm obviously joking here, Drew. I sent you the comment. We're going to give it to Kenny's water bottle. Like I was telling Dave during the break there, like I want to meet the real Kenny's water bottle, not the inanimate object. Like I don't want to meet a water bottle. I actually want to meet the guy behind the comments. I'm assuming.
Could you imagine could you imagine if he set something up with you and then all of a sudden you walk into this meeting and all
it was
you
just
see
a water bottle.
You just see a water bottle and
it's
he's nowhere to be
It's
found.
similar if you remember when Evander's Kane on Twitter left an actual cane at the 1445 Pembina studios. I think his name was Mike, if it's not mistaken.
Yeah, it was Mike.
Michael. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to know him a little bit over the years, but that was funny. It kind of reminded me of that. But got the comment up there, Kenny's water bottle. Bones is rotating these bottom three players to see who will play their way out of the lineup, emphasized in caps lock out. It's a competition which keeps players hungry and is also good to see as a fan. So Kenny, you always have the funny comments. That one, though, is completely true, right? Like, we didn't expect Jansen Harkins, first off, at the beginning of the season to be sent down to the Moose, but he obviously worked his way up. And with injuries, he's become more of a regular in the lineup. But tonight, he did not play. He didn't have his best game against Columbus, but I would argue most Jets weren't very good against Columbus. So Axel Jonsson-Fjällby went in. But it's a really good point by Kenny's water bottle. And more so just, rewarding Kenny. He's almost, I would say almost every show, he just has the best comments. He's really funny. So Kenny, water bottle, I know that's not your real name. Send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs at ICSEG, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you.
Big congratulations to Kenny's water bottle. And talking about you guys meeting people in person, I had the pleasure of meeting a number of Illegal Curve fans yesterday at the Manitoba Moose game, including In Bones We Trust. So that was great to meet you in person. In Bones, obviously, nice to meet you and be able to finally put a face to a name and all that jazz. And
is it true, Drew, that I heard that he was surprised at how handsome you are in real life? Is that true?
I can't speak for In Bones We Trust, as I'll let him comment on my handsomeness one way or the other. But a big thank you to everybody who came up to meet me yesterday at the Moose game. It was always a pleasure.
Drew, that was the only person, okay? Let's not exaggerate. It was
I went and introduced myself to Drew.
Yeah. People don't know. We don't actually ever see Drew. Like it's we just see him virtually, but we actually never see him in person. We've never met. So hopefully one day I'll meet Drew too.
Yeah, one day, fingers crossed, we'll be able to get together again and you'll see me in person. But it was great seeing everybody yesterday at the Moose game, of course, and great to meet anybody when we ever get that opportunity to do so. Dave M., do you want an opportunity to do a real quick Moose Minute?
I sure do, Drew. Not even a question.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minute Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Thank you, Drew. There shouldn't have been a question. I mean, you were at the game. I thought maybe you'd want to jump in and co-sign this Minute Moose Minute, but I appreciate you handing it off to me and allowing me to do it. So Brad Lambert, Leon Gawanke, who had been out of the lineup, those two returned. Obviously, a lot of focus on the 2022 first rounder for the Winnipeg Jets. So he got back into the lineup. He played with Wyatt Bongiovanni and Daniel Torgerson. And the Moose, it was an interesting game, Drew. And Drew, as I said, you were there. Another good crowd, over 6,000 on Thursday, over 5,000 on Saturday. The folks were excited to be in attendance for this Made in Manitoba Day. Everybody, your kind of game, everybody got to leave the game with pierogies. So that would be your kind of thing. And not only did they leave with pierogies, but if they scored one goal in the third period, they left with pancakes. So a lot of focus, it was a lot of foodie focus in the Canada Life building. And the Moose started off things with the first goal. Nice goal by Nicholas Jones as he put home a Ville Heinola rebound. Ville Heinola, folks will remember, playing on the right side now for the Manitoba Moose, obviously for purposes of if he gets the recall up to the Jets, they're going to want him to be able to play on that right side. And sure enough, followed up by one of the strangest goals you'll see, which is coincidental because Wyatt Bongiovanni on Thursday scored a very interesting goal, and he did the same thing in this game where he kind of stopped, swung his stick around, and
it was a chip shot.
Yeah, it was wild. I asked him after the game if it was something he planned. He started laughing, but it was an unusual one, and it beat Yaroslav Askarov and made it 2-0 for the Manitoba Moose, and it looked like they were in control of the game. But sure enough, Milwaukee Admirals are one of the best teams in their division. Well, the best team in their division, one of the best teams in the AHL, and they fought back and made it a 2-2 game. And you thought, okay, well, this should be a pretty good third period. And it was probably one of the most unusual third periods I've ever witnessed. And the reason I say that is because the Moose didn't allow a single shot against in a 2-all game. And that to me is just unbelievable. I mean, it's not like it was like a 6-0 game and the team you're playing is the worst team in the division and they don't possess the puck. Milwaukee is a very good team. It's a 2-all game. They had a power play and they pulled their goaltender for 2 minutes or the last 2 minutes of the game and didn't record a shot. The Moose outshot them 10-0. Greg Morales ended up with the game-winning goal. And the funniest part was I'm really not sure if the fans were more excited about them winning pancakes or taking a 3-2 lead in the third period. Drew looks like it was.
I think it was the combination of pancakes and pierogies, Dave.
Well, I mean, I suspect it was but regardless, the Moose picked up a big win to improve to 10-5-2-1 on the season as they chase down the Milwaukee Admirals for first in the division. And now it was a short 2-game homestand. They'll now go on the road to Abbotsford and then to Calgary. First ever visit even though Stockton during the COVID year played in Calgary. So they've gone to Calgary to play this team, but it's the first time they're going there to play the Calgary Wranglers. So they've got a 4-game road trip coming up.
Drew's choice of denim right there, the Wranglers. He always puts his Wranglers on when the Wranglers are playing.
Exactly. So anyway, and look, Brad Lambert had some good chances. You got folks his speed was evident, and it's going to take him some time to get used to, some things over here, and he's marinating, and there's nothing wrong with that. And remember, everyone, Josh Morrissey marinated in the AHL, didn't hurt him, wasn't detrimental to his career. Same is going to happen with Brad Lambert coming over, playing in North America, learning the pro game here in North America versus the pro game over in Europe, which is a very different game, obviously, with a different ice surface. So, a lot of good things there. And again, Ville Heinola playing on the right side. He had another second strong game playing on the right side, which isn't an easy transition. I actually saw Eric Dubois, the head coach, the assistant coach, the defensive coach. And I just talked to him about that idea of like switching over and, the transition. It's not that easy, but these guys are doing it and they're having some success. So that was my expedited Moose Minute, but I had to mention it because, as I said, Drew, that is one of the most unusual things I've ever seen in a hockey game where it's 2-2 between two pretty good teams and the one team doesn't get a single shot in the period. So especially, like I said, in a period where both teams are pushing to take the lead.
To be honest, Dave, I'm glad you did say it, and I saw you tweet about it yesterday because I was too busy wrangling a whole group of children at the game. Didn't really notice the shots on goal. Pardon the pun there, of course, with wrangling. But, it certainly was unusual and a great win for the Moose, and everybody at the game was really excited. And it really is a great family-friendly experience, as we've talked about.
Big Daddy Drew was in action at Canada Life.
That's right, and I was there on display as well. So a great win for the Manitoba Moose yesterday, a great win for the Winnipeg Jets this afternoon. We're next in action Tuesday night. The Jets and the Panthers will be at 7:00. Post game 9:45. Go ahead, Dave. You had something to say?
Well, I was just going to say, and we got to give the Winnipeg Ice. They also picked up a win yesterday. They beat the Prince Albert Raiders, I believe. So that's. They lost to Swift Current on Friday. They beat Prince Albert yesterday, and now they've got the Chiefs here on Friday. They've got a 4-game homestand, so they've got 2 more. It's unusual for us to see the Ice kind of having kind of a win-loss, but that's the reality, and they're still, I think, 23-4-0-0. So pretty damn good team. I think they're the only team in the WHL with over 20 wins. So the Ice are still cruising along, but yeah, they've also picked up a win, so we should mention that as well.
Connor Geekie, who we had on the show, I think that was 3 weeks ago. He had a beauty goal in that game. I didn't see all the highlights, but Geekie had an absolute beauty. Just wanted to get that in there.
Well, there you go, you guys, covering all bases. The Moose win, the Ice win, and the Jets win by that 5-2 margin today. Tuesday night, 9:45 p.m. back here on our YouTube channel. Going to be much to talk about after the Jets and the Panthers, and of course, Paul Maurice's return to Winnipeg. Before we wrap up, I want to say a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Frosty Winnipeg's got it up on the screen. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Boston Pizza, Tough Duck, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park, and The Keg support these fine local businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey.
My family's actually at Boston Pizza as we speak.
Well, we'll let you get to your family, Ezzy, and spend some quality time going over Lyle Crocodile with them. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Until Tuesday night at 9:45 p.m., we say thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show, and good night and good luck.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.